guys, and welcome back to Reed's Readers with your host, Clinton Reed. And I'm joined with lovely, amazing people here for the Book Club live show where we're going to be discussing of Sunlight and Stardust with the lovely authors themselves. I'm going to let Hope introduce herself, and then I'll let each of y'all introduce yourselves and say whatever y'all would like to say, because this might be some people's first introductions to you guys.
Oh, okay.
So, Hope.
Well, hi, I'm Hope from It's Hope's Books, and I am so excited to be here to be interviewing Riley and Christina, and I will just let them introduce themselves.
Okay.
I'm horrible with introductions.
Same.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Christina Lee, and I've been published for about 10 years, and been writing for 15. And I first wrote, I started with MF, and my first series was through Penguin. And then my very last book of that series, I asked if I could write an MM book. And they agreed. Back in the day, that was not, as Riley knows, that was not very, what would we say? It was not the norm.
It
was
just
not
didn't happen very often, yeah.
Right. And I was really pleased with that. And then from there, I spun off and just went straight to self-publishing, and all of the rest of my books have been self-published.
I am Riley Hart. I've actually been writing for 10 years as Riley, but I've been writing longer than that. I've kind of done a little bit of everything. I used to write under the name Night Dawn, and I've done MF, MM, YA, adult. Similar to Christina, I was with one of the traditional publishing houses, and I sold an MF series. And then around the same time, I asked about my MM book, my first one, which was as Naire, was called Rush. And that was and then basically that's what I've been writing ever since too. And I guess I'm known probably for character-driven stories.
Very much so on that part. Right? We have a few comments of people saying hi. Welcome, Nikki. Hi,
Hello.
Karina.
Hello.
And hi, Morgan. So, I wanted to ask y'all, first off, what brought y'all to writing of Sunlight and Stardust?
You want me to take it, or you want to? Well, we had already obviously been writing together for a while. We were good friends, and we had written a series as Christina and Naire together. And it kind of started as an idea, I had the idea of the journal and a story from the past, and then I just brought it up to her. We started plotting and figuring some things out, and she loved it. And then I had written the beginning, the first journal entry, I believe it was. And then we were both like, oh my gosh, we love this. But we were like, we don't think we're ready to write this story now, because it's going to be really emotional. Right. So we put it aside for a year, and then we jumped back in, and it just kind of took over our lives. And just I think it's one of the books I'm the most proud of that I've written.
Same. Definitely the same.
I know this was one of the ones I was most excited to read, and then when me and Hope had discussed creating the book club where all we read is Mel romance, I was like, because I've read quite a bit of Riley Hart and you two together, I was like, I wanted to add this onto it, because this book I've seen on multiple lists as one of the best Mel romance books, with the best characters, the best bisexual awakening, the best heartbreak ending, beautiful stuff. And I was just like, well, I'm dying to read it, because I've seen it on different lists now, and I have seen 5 TikToks about it. So I'm like, okay, And then when we got it on the list, I was like, okay, cool, getting closer and closer. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to heartbreak. Because I will say, this felt a lot like a Nicholas Sparks movie. Like with the way of, I mean that in a positive way, of the whole, the sadness, the love story, the characters. But it also felt like it threw in a little bit of fried green tomatoes. Because
Really? How? I love that movie, but I haven't seen it for a
God,
long
I
time.
love that movie. One of my
thinking,
favorite movies.
it made me
Really? Oh,
think
funny.
when you got to Tommy and Charlie's story, it kind of
Yeah.
made me think of Itchy and
Oh my gosh.
Ruth's
Oh, I didn't
story.
even think about
Oh
that. That's
my
kind of
God.
The
cool.
fact that they were in 1940 in the 1940s,
Oh
and
my
this was the
God.
1950s.
I didn't even know. I know.
A friend of mine, it's her favorite book of all time, so
Oh
I've
my
read it, and
God.
my husband is supposed to read it. That's why we still have the copy. But as I was reading this, I was just like, oh my God, it's fried green tomatoes. The only difference is nobody has killed an abusive husband and then cooked them.
Oh
and
yeah. Right?
But that's beside the point.
Right?
Yeah, we skipped that.
Yeah.
But
We decided
reading
not to do that.
and reading y'all's journal entry, like as the journal entries kept going in it, I was like, oh my God, please be happy. Please be happy. Please don't be realistic. Oh my God, it's realistic.
Yeah.
Were Tommy or Tom and Charlie, were they inspired by anybody realistic, or like any stories you guys have heard? Because this sounds so realistic, and I have read so many queer stories and done a lot of queer history and know a bunch of stories that have ended in tragedy a lot like this, unfortunately.
I wouldn't say that it was like anybody specific or anything like that, but I think that that is what we were going for, right? Because that was the reality
Yeah.
at that time, and we wanted to tell a story like that felt very real even in those parts, but then brought in a way that I still consider this happily ever after,
Same.
because
Yeah.
in my mind it is, because I mean, I don't know how many am I like allowed to totally spoil things, or do I not say anything? I don't.
Whatever
I
you
don't
feel
know.
like.
Maybe
Just
not.
so
I
you
don't
know,
know.
for anybody who's here who hasn't read the book, we will be spoiling quite a bit. Just
Okay, I just wanted to make
Oh,
sure.
good one.
FYI.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, if you don't want to hear, no. But like, I feel, because like we did it in a way that was realistic, but we still gave them their happily ever after, right? They just found it in a next life, and that
Right.
to me is so true. Like, not true to life, but true to love, that these people, these souls loved each other so much that they had to find a way back to each other, even if it was in another life. So
Yeah.
Like, I also appreciate the fact that basically you had Tanner and Cole's story almost mirror
Mhm.
Tom and Charlie's in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
but gave them a today ending that
Yeah,
was a
yes.
happily ever, like they each got their happily ever
Yes.
afters, but in a way that it mirrored each other but showed the two time periods.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I think that's what we were going
Yeah,
for,
that's
really,
what we were going for. Yep. Yep.
And
I
hope.
think, oh, go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, we wanted to be realistic in the past, but then we wanted to do what we do now, right, in current day, is give those happily ever afters, because those stories didn't happen back then, and that's what we're all about
Exactly.
now.
Exactly.
So we kind of found a way to marry those two realities, I
Right.
guess.
And I do remember, I don't know if you remember this, Riley, but I remember our first pass in editing, and they were like, our editor was like, I can't believe you did this. I don't know if this is a happily ever after. I can't, you can't do this. And we were like, oh no, this is exactly the ending we want. And I remember that it was upsetting. But we thought, like you said, we thought it was a happily ever after in
the
its
most
own
ultimate
way.
kind in my way that
Yeah.
that this tragedy was terrible and heartbreaking. We cried when we wrote it, right?
Oh
But
my
then
God.
eventually, how beautiful is it that they loved
Mhm.
so hard and loved so real
Mhm.
that they found each other now through Cole and Tanner,
Mhm.
So yeah.
Yep.
And I will also say I like the appreciation of the page connection that we didn't even know until the end.
It was so
Oh
hard. Like we
yeah.
did so much to it was so hard to figure all of that out and tie it all
Mhm.
together, that the ex-wife and the friend and then the family and how that they would figure all of those things out. We were like, this is hard. Like
The
how
fact
are we gonna
Yes.
do this? But it was, I wanted her in the past, she was such a good friend,
Mhm.
to
Yep.
them and gave them a way to be together as she could, and she kept their secret. And then as Tanner's wife in the future, she brought them together again. So it's kind of, I don't know. It was just felt special.
See, and
Mhm.
I loved that because I remember the moment where he wrote in his own journal asking for a sign.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like,
Oh
okay, so I wonder
yeah.
if she's ever actually going to
Yeah.
show a sign throughout the book.
Yeah.
Because I was like, well, maybe that's just grief. And in that
Mhm.
moment, he just needed to be like, asking for a sign. Maybe wind will be the sign or something. And then when the old lady showed up and then said her granddaughter's name, I went, okay, okay, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
Sobbing mess here. Done.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
so that's how we're doing that. I did not expect that at all.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a fun experience. I will, like I said, I'm proud of this book. I mean, I love everything I write. I have to, right? But I'm proud of
Mhm.
this in a different way because it
Yep.
it, it took so much to figure out, and it's such a heartbreaking story, but ultimately hopeful and beautiful, and tying everything together and finding that way, like again, to bring the past and the future together. Just, I don't know, it felt kind of magical.
And I feel like when we were writing it, it felt different
Oh
between
yeah.
us when
Mhm.
we were writing it. And like even after that barn scene, I remember sending you the chapter and I was a mess. And I was, sobbing, and I'm like, I can't stop crying. Oh my God, oh my God. Then you got the chapter and you read it over and were ready to write your portion. And then you messaged me and you're like, I can't even function right now. So
Exactly.
we were like so emotional about the whole thing. And of course, never knowing whether readers were going to feel about it the same way that we were feeling, but we just sort of had this weird, I don't know, thing when we were writing it. It just felt really special. So
I
yeah.
agree.
See, as a gay man growing up in Oklahoma, aka the South, a lot of what was said in the book and like what happened to them still happens today in the South, and a
Mhm.
lot of different things, and it hit home for me now that I'm a married gay man and I have my happily ever after. Fingers crossed. You never know. You never know what life may happen. So fingers crossed. But seeing how much each couple cared for each other, like it hit home really hard, and I think that's why I was a sobbing mess.
Mhm.
I was glad last night when I was watching Sprints, I wasn't on Sprints and live on YouTube with friends because I literally my entire shirt was soaked.
Oh, did you just read it last night?
I finished it up
He
last night.
finished it.
I was gonna
Oh.
finish it while I was at work, but then work got so busy that I couldn't even listen. And every time I was trying to listen to it, I was getting lost and like, okay, what does math have to do with this? Okay, it doesn't. Never mind. I need something nonsensical.
Yeah.
But so I was like, I'll finish it up while my friends are doing reading sprints. I'm not gonna cry that hard. Oh my god. I think it's one of the 5 books I've cried the hardest at this year, and that's saying something.
Oh.
Hope, do you have any questions?
Ooh. I know I wrote some down, but
Like I thought I'd give you the opportunity to talk a little bit
yeah,
because I realized
that's
I've been talking a lot.
oh, that is totally. I think the biggest question that I have on here that I want to know the answer is since it's been so long since you guys have written the book, is there anything that you would have done differently now if you were writing it now compared to when you did?
Go ahead. You can go first.
Well, I don't really have anything. I was going to
No.
say not that I think
Same.
can think of, because it was really, I think that we told the story that we were inspired to tell, and the story that the characters told us, and some people love it, some people don't, and that's always what it's going to be, but it's kind of about staying true to your story and your characters, and I feel like that's kind of what we did with that book. So
Yep. Same.
Okay, I've got a couple of fun questions that
Okay.
we used to ask when I used to do the readathon, the seasonathon, where we used to interview authors and stuff. Is there anything when you guys are writing that you have to have with you? Like, I know in the past I've had an author tell me, I think it was Janella Angelis, that said that she has like this little red bird that has to sit on her desk. Or people have said they have to have a certain temperature of coffee,
Oh.
or their brain doesn't work.
I'm not really like that. I can kind of, I bring my laptop, I can write different places. I used to go write in public a lot. But I do, I guess water. I'm boring. Like I always I have a cup of water with me. So I don't think that, I'm not I don't listen to music notebooks, actually. Like I always have.
Yeah, you do.
Right next to me, I have 5. So that is something. And even if I don't write, like if I go somewhere else or whatever, with my laptop, I still always bring one of my notebooks. So like any type of plotting or ideas, a lot of that, like I write on paper. So I guess that would be the one thing for me.
Yeah. I actually used to write on paper too until I got a Remarkable. You know what that is? It's like the digital.
Oh, yeah.
Digital pen and paper. So that's always right there. And I always open a new page when I'm writing so that I can, the thing that I write down the most is names of side characters and names of things, places in the book, because I will be like 5 chapters down and I'll just put and I'll have to think like, what was the name of that store? And then, so it's right there, right? Or what did I name that side character or whatever? So yeah. But other than that, I always have to have chapstick. I am a chapstick whore. If my lips turn dry at all, it ruins my life. So I always have
a little dramatic.
I feel that on a personal level, though.
I always have to have chapstick. Anyway, that's it. That's about it.
Well, I also know that both me and Hope are both aspiring authors. I know she has a book that she's hoping to get published soon, and I'm hoping starting in January I'm going to start working on my first. Is there any advice you could give to aspiring authors that want to write in the Mel romance genre? Because that's where both of us are leaning towards right now.
You can go.
Well, I would say, I would say get the words on the page, even if they're complete crap, because
crap can be fixed. That's what my editors say. Crap can be fixed. A blank page cannot.
Doesn't even matter. If you have a blank page, there is no way to edit a blank page. You can always go back and fix it. And my first drafts are complete crap still to this day. And I just go, plow through, and then go back and fix everything in like 3 waves. So some people are very fast, some are slow. That's the second thing I was going to tell you. Find what works for you. Don't compare yourself to other writers that write fast or that make you feel overwhelmed by their process, because you have to find your own, even if it's you're a very slow writer, or if you can't write every day, you can only write every few days. You have to find your own process and sit into it, because otherwise you're going to struggle and it's going to be hard for you.
And that's hard to do at any stage. I feel
Yes.
like at any level, quote unquote, for lack of a better word, it is hard not to see and compare yourself and to feel like, oh my gosh, I need to try this, or this person does this, or why can't I do this well? We are all different, and what works for one is not going to work for the other. I'd add read, which obviously you guys do all the time, but I feel like that especially in the beginning, and I also feel like read as much as you can now, because the more you write, I feel like the less you end up reading, and that's like the hard part for me, because I feel like I miss that. I don't read nearly as much as I used to, but I feel like it's it just helps inspire you, all of these things. So I just read. And I feel like this kind of goes with the stay true to your, there's always so many like, do this, do that, or, and there's no one way, there just isn't. What works for you is not going to work for me. What's going to, we all just have to find, if you're trying to do like this person said, do XYZ, QRS is going to work better for you, or whatever. You know what I mean? There's just no one way to do it. You have to find what works best for you.
Agree. Yep.
Thank you. That's actually really good advice. And also, because I know you guys write a lot together, how do you guys come together with that? I know we've discussed a little bit about like you send yours and you send yours back and forth. Yeah, I always find it fascinating with author duos, like how they come together with the writing process, especially if have two different types of writing styles and stuff like that.
And that's kind of what we do. Like we usually sit down and talk, and on the phone or whatever, like what story do we want to tell? Like what are we in the mood for? And we hash out an idea and figure out from there. And then we usually each take a character and kind of give them, their name, their backstory, their conflict, all of those things, and kind of see how they can mesh together when we are plotting and talking things out. We don't like usually plot the whole thing out in that way. We kind of just jump in and then kind of get a feel. And sometimes she might write a chapter that I'm like, it will automatically spark like, oh my God, it's really fun to play off of, like, because you never know what you're going to get. It's really fun to be like, oh, I'm going to do this. And you write something. And then there's other times where I'm like, okay, what should I do next? Like I have no idea where to go from here. We have to get on and kind of talk. We have we each have a character, but obviously we're writing each other's characters in our chapters, right? So we're both, even though we each have our own, we're both writing each other's as well. But ultimately, like if I write her character say something that she's like, oh, he wouldn't say it like that, then she obviously can go in and tweak that because she knows him more than I know him, So I think that's mostly, and then toss back and forth that way. Yeah. I don't know.
And the funny thing about what we were discussing about find your own process, my process with Riley is co-writing is completely different than when I'm by myself. And I've tried to make it mesh and it never does. So like if I'm writing with Riley, for some reason, I can go back into the chapter that I just wrote really cremily and fix everything right away. I try to do that when I'm writing alone and it doesn't work. I try to go back into the chapter and fix everything and nope. I have to just keep plowing through to a certain point. Normally I do things in thirds, like I write the first 10 chapters, go back and fix all of that. Then the next chunk, And with Riley, I'm like in there fixing every single chapter. And it's probably because I don't want to see her. I don't want her to see my crummy words. I don't want her to be like, what the hell is this? So it's like this different kind of pressure kind of than when you're writing alone. No one's looking over your shoulder and you sort of fall back into your same patterns. But as long as those patterns work, then keep going. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, because even like when we write together, like she was saying, we'll have like, at the end of the first draft, it's a 70,000 word book, right? That we then just have to go in and revise and edit. But sometimes when she does it on her own, it might be 40,000. And then she goes and like layers, goes through and reads it all and layers, and it goes up to 60,000. And then she she does it totally different. But I think that that's kind of the beauty in writing with other people, because you have someone to talk to as you go. You have someone to work through as you go. Like, I don't reread my chapters usually on my own, but like she said, when I'm writing with somebody else, I will reread it over, because I don't want to send her something that like makes zero sense or whatever.
Right.
So I think that kind of you just have to find a way that works. And sometimes I think that for me, it's really important to be like close to someone and be a good, know someone you really well and feel really comfortable with them if you're going to co-write with them, because you have to be able to have that honesty or open, like, we'll sit down and talk, like, how are we going to do this? Are we just going to, you write a chapter, send it, or we're both working on our other books? Do we have to come up with some type of schedule to where we do it slower? You only send me a chapter every Thursday and I send you one every Sunday or Monday or whatever. Like, what way? And if that changes, like if we start just going for it, but then life gets crazy after we to go, hey, I got to slow down or whatever. And just feel comfortable with that person to be able to do that.
Yep.
I will say, you two, this is being the third one I've read of you two writing together.
Oh, wait 1 second. Here you go. Go ahead. You need the pen? You need to take a photo of it. Do you know where it is? Sorry.
You are perfectly fine. But
find it and then take a photo. Sorry. My husband forgot the grocery list. I just want you all to know on YouTube that now my kid is running around trying to find a grocery list. Okay.
But
I'm sorry.
Basically, this is the third book I've read of y'all together, because I started with the Ever After series, the duology, which are y'all doing any more in that? Just curious.
We don't have anything planned at this time, but we have talked about it, and you never know.
Because it was so fun to do that.
It is. I know. I agree. So maybe.
Which, for those that are here that don't know what I'm talking about, that would be Ever After and Forevermore, which are princess retellings as
princes
as princes.
Princess, yeah. Princes and dukes. Yeah.
Yep.
But something I've noticed between both y'all's writing styles, because now that I've read both y'all separate and both y'all together, like Riley was saying earlier, she writes very compelling characters. Like, and I've noticed, like, in y'all's work together, both characters are so compelling, but then you've got like Christina's like the beauty behind the world and the stuff that I've noticed of all this. Because reading A Breath Apart, it's more of, I feel the beauty of like the side characters, of how all the characters come together to make the main characters who they are.
Wow.
It's something I noticed while reading of Sunlight and Stardust that made me think Boyfriend Goals and A Breath Apart, taking the way that these characters are and how they become who they become.
I think part of it, as far as like, right, and this isn't even totally the character thing, but this is just something I've been noticing about myself recently, is like, I didn't realize that when people say they see a movie in their head, that you really see a movie, a lot of people in their head. I don't visualize, I don't see things when I write. And I am very character centric for my characters and their thoughts and their feelings, all that. But I often forget to tell you what the house looks like, or what the room, or and I have to make a point to go in and add those things when I'm writing, because my brain doesn't see them in the same way that other people's do. So I just forget to do it. And she is very good with that, at painting the outside picture, the visual, in a way that I am not. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, and I'll have to try like harder when we work together too. Cause I'm like, well, that was really pretty. Now I need to write something really pretty like that. You know?
Yeah, but those are like our strengths and weaknesses.
But yes, and I feel like
sometimes you'll write like, so what was his reaction to this statement?
Yeah,
like,
see, and
you narrowly focus in, and sometimes I too widely focus out.
See,
and it works really well
together. And I think that is the part. Sometimes she'll be like, she'll ask me about those things, about, the outside stuff that I don't.
Like what room are they in?
Yeah, where are they, or whatever. And sometimes I'll be like, yeah, but what did he feel like hearing this?
Right?
So it kind of works together, because we both have our strengths and our weaknesses, and then we kind of.
It's good that we read each other's solo work too, because like I rely on Riley as a beta reader for me because of those things she points out. And I don't know if I drive you crazy by asking like,
no, but she did some
location?
Things that I don't think of, and then I mean, sometimes I'll be like, why does this matter? Not I mean, like, but it does matter. But it's because most people are seeing those things in the way that she does, and that I don't, right? So in my head, it is not. And again, this is something I recently learned about. Well, I knew about myself, but I didn't know that other people really saw things in their head that way. So I've noticed the effect that it has on my writing, and even how I read sometimes, because sometimes I browse read certain things, because to where you're seeing this beautiful lush picture and you want to paint it, I don't see nothing. So like I just end up like skimming certain things. So I mean, I think it's good in that way, because it helps, like you said, our strengths and weaknesses, and we depend on each other for those certain things. And
thank you for pointing that out, by the way. Thank you for.
Cool.
I've never heard anybody say that before, so that's kind of cool. Thanks.
It was something I noticed while reading of Sunlight and Stardust, because I had recently read A Breath Apart earlier on, a couple months ago, because I was like, because you were on a list for next year of, I've read these duo authors, but I've only read this one solo, so I want to try these solo too, to try more into. And then when y'all agreed to interview, I was like, okay, I want to try her solo, and I want to see what the differences are in the writings and stuff like that. And then that's what I picked up on as reading of Sunlight and Stardust, is like the descriptions of the barn, and how like important the barn was to the ultimate story. Because if you think about it, without the descriptions of the barn and what the barn truly means to the overall story, a lot of the heartbreak and the emotions and stuff like that the characters are feeling wouldn't make sense. So it's like, as I was reading, I was dissecting who was writing what in my head, and I was like, oh, I like this. Oh, this is fun. I've never done that before with a book.
That's
like,
hear somebody say that. Yeah,
it is cool.
Well, speaking of writing, is there any books or authors that have inspired you guys to be writers?
Oh gosh,
that's always kind of hard. And a lot of mine are older, because I've been writing forever.
Same.
I know. I'm an old person. But
that on a personal level.
But I think I'm inspired by characters that I fall in love with. Obviously, writers who can make me do that, and people who I envy, people who just put words together really beautifully. Like I'm a big, like I have certain people I call like word heroes. Okay. David, I don't know if it's Levithan or Levathan. I don't know how to say his last name. He is one for
Love
me.
him.
Like Two Boys Kissing is one of my favorite books. And I have so much, like I have so many quotes by him, like saved on my computer. And it's just like, God, why can't I do that? Like I put words together. Like, it's so, I love that. You know, who else can do that really well? Dedicated by Nev Wilder. I love that book. It's so beautiful. What is his
I love
name?
that book.
Too Like the Lightning by, what was his name?
Oh, la la la.
Travis.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say his last name. Yeah, Travis
And
B last name. I don't know how to say.
And I was going to say, I'm currently reading, and I was going to tell you this, Riley, because we always tell each other when we like books. Darn it. The Sea Ain't Mine. The Sea Ain't Mine Alone by
Oh,
C.L.
I've heard about that. Yeah, I
The
haven't read it, but I've
writing
heard that.
is just the way they put the words together is really pretty. A.M. Johnson also puts pretty words together.
Yeah,
oh my
she's
gosh.
very good. Yeah.
Let There Be Light. That book, Let There Be Light. Yeah.
So I think that is what, pretty people who put words together are aspiring that way to be, and people that just make me fall in love with their characters. And I think that is because as a writer too, that's what is more where I come from, right? I don't always have these. This book was like a layered, crazy, in-depth plot, but I don't always have that. Mine are more people-centric. Like I used to want to be a psychologist. Like I've always been fascinated in who people are and why we do the things that we do, and layered real people, right? Like people who are flawed and don't always do the say the right thing, but they are good at heart. They're good. You know, I love dissecting that type of stuff. So anybody else who does that in books, I'll fall in love with your book.
I'm a very character-driven reader.
Yeah.
Like I have to like the characters to like the story. Like,
but they don't have to be perfect, or at least for me. And that's what I love. I don't want perfection. I want people who like feel like I could know them because or that, you know what, I might do that even though it was a dumb thing to do. Like sometimes our emotions lead us and we don't always do the right thing, but that doesn't mean we're bad people. And how do we learn, and how does our past experience make us who we are, and have to do like with the decisions that we make now, you know.
Cole is a very good example of that.
That's true.
That was her. She's Cole.
Cole
so I was thinking, did you figure that out already? Since you said you
yeah, could you tell who wrote who?
I had an inkling. You just confirmed it, because the more we dived into Tanner in his head, the more I was getting I was getting stuff from your other works in my head of, okay, maybe she's writing this one, and maybe Christina's got Cole. It was like, watch me be completely wrong, and it's flipped.
You're right. But we shared the journal entries too.
We did.
So
we were both Tom and Charlie. Yeah.
Yep. Speaking of how y'all have mentioned a couple of different books, is there any books you feel that readers just absolutely need to read? They don't necessarily have to be new, or they don't necessarily have to be male romance. It's just, I always like to see like what authors love to read, and I always like to go back and try some of these books to just get like a taste.
So are you talking about in our genre?
Well, not necessarily. It doesn't have to be in your genre, but if it's a book that you love, that you feel like, oh no, everybody needs to like have this book in their lives, like.
Yeah, so I'm looking into my Kindle right now because I'm a big fan of historical MM romance, always have been. And I cannot. Do you know the name of the book, Riley? Because I always try to get you to read it, but.
Is it the one? I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the name of it. It's the one with like the Kerouac, something like that. Yes.
By the Kerouacs Call.
Yeah, Caroline. Yeah, I know it's something like that.
I'm pulling it up. Na, 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 na.
Kind of sounds
Um,
familiar.
So, but this person only seems to have written one book in this genre. And it always, yes, it's called By the Currawong's Call. And it's by Welton B. Hold on. Come on, Kindle. By Welton something. I was going to show you the cover, but of course it went all the way to the thing. Here it is. Okay. Welton B. Marsland. Do you see that? Where the hell is my?
No, I was like, no, we do. Okay, now we do.
There we go.
That one I always say. And then I always say Wolf Song 2 by TJ Klune because
That's actually the
Clearly
book that
they
made
agree.
me friends.
That's awesome.
What'd you say?
That's the book that kind of like made me and Clint friends. So you mentioning that is like
That's
extra
cool.
special.
You give me gay and then werewolves or shapeshifters
Yeah,
of any
yeah.
kind, sign me up.
Yeah.
But
That book destroyed me practically.
I
Yeah.
had done a
Read
read along. I
those.
did a read along of that series on my channel, and Hope was one of the first projects that she joined me in on. And
That's
she did
cool.
every live show, and we talked about each one. Oh my god, TJ Klune just
I
shatters
haven't
my
read
soul.
them. I need to read those. She's been telling me to read that for years too. I don't know why I haven't. I know.
I mean,
And
I
then-
have 1, 2, 3 different
Oh,
copies
you
of
probably.
Oh,
I
wow.
was gonna say, I bet you do. Yeah. And then the third one always sticks in my mind, and then I'll shut up, is one by Amy Lane. And of course, I'm going to ask you to help me, Riley. Not Amy
Oh,
Lane.
I know exactly which one you're on about.
It's not Painted
it's the-
Black.
Is it? Does he have a? Is it the rock star guy or something?
Yeah, but what's it called?
I don't know.
Here, Amy Lane. Looking it up again in my Kindle. Gosh, wow. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. Okay.
I do, but I can't remember
I
the
recognize
title.
the author's name, but
Okay. Anyway, that one. How about that? Oh, Beneath the Stain, it's called.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Beneath the Stain. Okay, I'm done with my books that stick in my head.
Mine are kind of different.
we like different here.
And I think part of it is because part of it for me is because I think I came from YA, and so a lot of that stuff in my head. And I feel one of the things that I love about YA so much is that, and I don't think everybody who doesn't read YA realizes this, is like the wide range of topics that they touch on, that you have a little bit more room to be flawed because you're younger. I feel like they do really well with like diversity and different type of things. So I will always, which we said earlier, Two Boys Kissing, I think that everybody in the world ever should read that book. And also Like a Love Story by I believe it's Abdi Nazemian. I don't know if that's how you say his name.
Oh my god, that book destroyed
I actually have a tattoo. I have a tattoo for it. I have a tattoo that says "Love is our legacy" from that book because, like, it touched my.
Matter of fact, it's facing outwards.
Is it? Like, I can't even find my tattoo right now. Oh yeah, see, it's upside down, but it says "Love is our legacy" from that book. I think that everybody should read it. It's just special. So that would those. I'm a huge fan of Bill Konigsberg. The Music of What Happens is a huge. I have a book where he calls me his biggest fangirl, and I'm like, yes, I am. So I love him. And that one touches on sexual assault, and I think the way that almost the he wrote. God, yes, hold on. I have it right there. I can't believe that. It's the first one that I have by him. Openly Straight.
Openly Straight. There we go.
Yes.
My brain was like,
that's the one. I have it right over there signed, and that I love
Good
that
book.
because it deals with this boy who, and I think this comes from society, right? His like, well, I can't have been sexually assaulted. Like I'm a guy, and how does that happen? You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Like this whole thing
Mhm.
that we're taught and that people believe. And I love his voice. I love his writing. Like he, yeah, it's a special book. I love that one. I'm
have
looking.
that book.
It's so it's so good.
So we should have a month where, Riley, you tell me that I have to absolutely
Yes,
read this, and I
one
tell
book
you
a
you
month,
have to
and we
one
have
book.
to do
Yeah.
it. Yes.
But I can't do
Yes.
Two Boys Kissing.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
and you couldn't do like a love story either, actually.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can do
Okay.
either of
Okay.
those two.
Okay.
Yeah. So and then The Return by Brad Bonnie.
Oh yeah, Brad Boney.
Oh, that
And,
Boney, I
yeah.
don't know how you say. I don't know that book. I love it too, and it's so. I would say read The Nothingness of Ben first,
Yes,
which is a
love
great book
that.
too. Like it's a really good book, but The Return is just
Mhm.
like mind blowing, different, special. Like I love that book. I'm looking at. I actually have some of my favorite books listed on my website, and so I'm looking at that list to see what else I might have
Like,
that you
if
guys
you
might
notice
love.
behind me, these 3 shelves right here,
Mhm.
me and my husband we read a lot of queer literature in this house, which
Mhm.
is why we have the rainbow behind, because this is technically his desk. We read predominantly queer almost in this house. At least he does. And a
Mhm.
lot of what you're listing is we have back here.
Wow.
Really? Yeah, see,
That's
that's
cool.
cool. I
Mhm.
do.
And
I'm the only
he
reader
tends
in
to
my
read
family.
the YA first, because he
Mhm.
knows what I like and what I don't like when it comes to YA these
Mhm.
days.
Mhm.
Because I've been leaning a lot more indie author erotic romance these days, and he does
Yeah.
not touch those genres.
Oh, really?
So he's like, he'll tell me if I should read something or not. He's like,
Uh-huh.
that is up your alley. That is not. So,
Well,
like a
ask
love
him about
story,
the.
he
Oh yeah, he
forced
told you.
me
Oh,
to
yeah.
read like a love story, and then after that, I listened to nothing but Madonna for 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, I've never I was a sobbing mess, but I was like that and Two Boys Kissing. I was both like, I am a changed person now, and that's what I love about books and reading and writing.
Mhm.
Like I love those books that make me feel like a
Yeah.
changed person. That
Yeah.
I'm like that mean something. That feel like they, and those are. I think those are the ones that
Same.
stick with me. Right? We always
Yep.
I love sexy stuff and fun stuff and all that
Yeah.
stuff too.
Yeah.
And those stick with me too as well. I think
Yeah.
part of that is all like the characters for me and how, but I just love those ones that make me be like feel changed after I read it.
Yeah.
I
Agree.
like
Agree.
when a book can make you feel an emotion, no matter what that emotion
Yeah.
is.
Yes.
Mhm.
A lot of my favorite books and favorites of the year are ones that I've cried at.
Yeah.
Like y'all's book, I bawled like a baby, but books like Say You Swear by Megan Brandy or Green Creek by TJ Klune, Red, White, and Royal Blue, a bunch of those have made me bawl
I love
because
Red, White,
just
and Royal
feeling
Blue.
the emotions
I
and like
love that too. See, I
and
love to feel
when
things.
we've read it, like with Red, White, and Royal Blue, I got an early ARC copy of it from NetGalley, and I read it during the pandemic.
Mhm.
I
No.
read it 5 times before it came out
Oh
Wow.
wow.
because it made me felt like a hug that I needed at that time.
See,
Mhm.
that is the best feeling, right? And certain books can do that. Certain books might break your heart. Certain books feel like a
Yes.
hug.
Right.
If
Like
a
an
book
old
can
friend, like you feel like you're like, you reread something. It's like hanging out with an old friend.
Yes.
Like, oh, I love
Yeah.
If a book can take my heart, rip it out of my chest, stomp on it, chop it into pieces, sew it back together, and shove it back in, I'm gonna love it.
Those are the best kind of books.
I agree. I love stuff like that too.
I'm more into, and I agree with you, but I also I like to swoon when I'm reading romance, and
No,
it
I do too.
doesn't necessarily have to do with the sex scenes. I'm not like,
Same.
I don't actually care how many sex scenes are in a book, but if you can make me swoon or make me feel like,
which
and
is
it's
feeling
normally-
too, right? That swooning is making you feel
Yeah,
just that, like, and I
right.
agree. Yeah.
Or as we
And
say here at Ba, did you bleat? Because Ba, because we're the rainbow sheeps of the family. When a sheep
mhm,
baws, it's called bleating.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
So we're like, did you bleat at the book?
Oh, I love
That's cute.
Which is, did
that.
you swoon?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's like a big thing for me too.
Yeah, when it comes
Yeah.
to romance, if I don't swoon or anything, I'm like,
Hmm.
I didn't like the characters. I didn't connect anywhere. I'm like, writing was good. Sex scenes were good. Don't care. But then I've had, because as a gay man, I should not be liking some lesbian books
Mhm.
as hard as I have had in the past. Like Delilah Green Doesn't Care.
I
That
think it.
one hit me
I think
hard.
it crosses
But it's
over like
all
Yeah.
that.
about, I
Though.
think it is about
It's about the
love and
Love.
connection and
feeling, the
Yeah.
connection
yeah.
of what it makes you feel. Yeah,
It's the
agreed.
swooningness and it's me
Mm-hmm.
connecting with the characters and me going,
Mhm.
oh, I love you.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Mhm. Yep. That's cool.
Hope, any other questions that you have?
Ooh, I guess one question, because we're kind of talking about book recommendations, is what is like one book that you would recommend somebody to read from the other authors? So like Riley, recommend
Oh.
a book by
Eesh.
Christina that you'd recommend
Ooh.
to somebody who, like me, I've only ever read this book by either of you and wanting kind of a place to
Oh.
start, but it would be
In the
fun if
Gray.
the opposite person. What was
Is
that?
that is it In the Gray? Is that your title for the last one that I fell in love with?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Yes,
In the
that
Gray. Yeah.
yes, that I love that book. And it has Regret used to be, which is a good one too, my favorite Christina book. And then I read that one. It's so good. And I saw actually Briar Prescott post about it, and she said, and I love this, that there's something so gentle about Christina's writing and her characters that
Really?
and that's yes, it was in her
Oh,
Oh
Gray.
no, I
indeed.
didn't see that. I didn't
Yeah,
see what
she
you're
did.
talking
And
about.
there's
I'm
something,
like, oh
and
my God.
it's really like comforting. We talk about like a hug or whatever. It feels that way. And these characters and their story, it's unique. One of them's homeless, and they're brought together by like a dog. His dog keeps going to the homeless guy's tent, and they start. Yeah, I mean, it's really beautiful, and their friendship and their relationship. And she covers mental health in it, mental illness, but it's not like an angsty, really like heavy book at all, but in a realistic way. There's some days that you just don't feel like getting out of bed, and you do, or the next day you don't get out of bed today, but you do, and kind of those realistic things that I think are part of so many of our lives. And again, she does everything in this kind of like gentle, realistic way. So that one,
Wow.
that's what I would say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, so I would have said, I mean, geez, there are so many, but I used to always go with Depth of Field. That used to be like my absolute favorite Riley book. But I don't know what it is about us in the last couple of books and liking each other, but you just released Risk the Fall, and you're about to release On the Mountain. Those books, they just felt very different from you. And obviously, I've read beta read almost every single one of your books, but for some reason, those just feel so new and special and different for you that I literally was sometimes reading and like forgetting to write notes because I was so into the freaking story. And I think that the thing I like about your writing and these books is you have a grittier side to you. Like, you can write funny and you can write everything, but when you write your grittier books, like, I don't even know if I can explain what that means, but like when characters are really down on their luck, they have it hard. You're really like slapping us in the face with the hardship, and and I also notice like you never write, and neither do I, but you never write like billionaires. You always write down to earth, regular dudes. And then when they're regular dudes that have really had a hard life, you just write them so well. And that's what I mean by gritty. And then when they're, when they make the connection with that other person, and, you just in the emotion and the sensualness and all of that. So to answer your question,
Thank
Risk
you.
the Fall and on the mountain, which is coming
January
next
24th.
month. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Like, okay.
I mean,
I'm like,
I have
add
Risk
it
the
to my
Fall.
list.
I have Risk the Fall already on a list to get, and I had On the Mountain on the list as well. So I'm like, okay, good to know.
Yeah. Well, you guys will love them. You'll love them.
Oh, and speaking of, Lori in the chats says Risk the Fall was so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, chat people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a few extras that joined for a few. I know Dana says hi.
Oh, hi. I see that now. Yeah.
Lori says
Hello.
Yeah.
hi.
Oh, hey.
Kaylani says hi.
Thanks for hanging in there with us.
Karina was like, Green
Green
Creek.
Creek.
Karina's was also in our buddy read of Hardcore. We love our Green Creek. Her favorite character is Thomas, and she will die on any hill for Thomas. If that explains anything. And then Dana's like, I knew Green Creek was going to get a cute reaction. I was like, you've got hope in me here. That's what we're kind of known for. Because we started the book club because I'm just now recently getting into my romance era. I used to not read a lot of romance. And I used to not read a lot of male romance either. Even as a queer man, I was like, I stuck with my YA because that's where I was getting a lot of queer recommendations, and that was like the only place I was getting it.
Yep.
And then I had also been told by multiple people, "Oh, you don't read male romance written by women because they fetishize us and blah blah blah." It's like, okay, so I'm gonna stay away, blah blah blah. And then that's when I read Red, White, and Royal Blue. I was like, well, this is written by a woman, and this isn't fetishizing. It's like, what?
That's a hot topic.
I was like, I have since read some that kind of come across as that, and I just the minute I feel that vibe, I'm like, no, thank you. And then there's others that I'm like, these are so beautiful. Where was I?
I just think everything is shades of gray, and I think
I do too.
no
I mean,
situation
I think
is black
it's
and
an
white.
important
There's
right.
nuance. There's not to get on that.
I think
topic,
it's an important topic.
It's
an important topic, and I think
It's
it
just not black
can
and white.
happen.
Yeah.
But I also think it can expand into other genres too, and other
Same.
categories.
I completely
and
agree
I
with
think
that.
like with any genre of book, you have to find the gems or what works for you. And I always say, gosh, there's like something for every mood. There's something for everyone. But yeah, I hear ya.
So, and Hope agreed when Hope and I were talking. And a lot of Hope and I's ideas for things stem from live shows. Like we're currently co-hosting a readathon this weekend for smut and self-care, which came from it's called Clipmas. It stemmed from someone in the chat saying someone in the chat said Clint-isms because I apparently do some weird things.
You do.
And I just happened to glance over and I misread it. I was like, what is Clipmas? And I was like, wait. And she's like, let's make a readathon. So we have a few of those. And then this stemmed from me making some joke of we're the Books Addicts Anonymous group. And she's like, hey.
And then, I immediately
let's do a
messaged and I was like, let's do it.
let's do it.
That's
And then I was like,
fun.
Mel romance. That way we can both dive in and we
Mhm.
can both figure out what we like in Mel romance.
So you started at the
Right.
same time then
Yes.
with that? Oh, cool. Yeah.
That's
Like
cool.
I had read some prior last year, so I have some knowledge of it, and I've done a lot of research and found a lot of lists and a lot of I have a lot of things that I want to read in the future. And I'm also one of those that I'm like, I find an author I love, I'm like, all I want to read is their backlist.
Yeah.
But now I'm like,
Same.
I have too
Mhm.
many of those, and authors like you, Riley, have way too much on the backlist for right now.
I know.
I've now decided I'm doing projects in the future of I'm choosing one author. I'm going, this one only has this amount, has like 26 books. I'm going to focus on this author first, then we'll go to this one. But as I'm doing these, I'm going to read the ones with the 50 backlist books so I can get that list down.
Been at this a while.
But
And I'm a little
she was
obsessed.
like, Hope wanted to go on the journey with me of discovering all of these because I think I had given her, she wanted a recommendations from me for a weird video that she did, and I didn't realize that every book I gave her was Mel romance at the
Which
time.
I enjoyed.
And she was like,
I enjoyed
well,
the list.
she was like, well, now I want to read more Mel romance, so let's do this.
I think once you jump in, you kind of fall in love, and that's
Yeah.
where you know it's 90% of what I read.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm like going over here to the Mel romance shelves. It is, or the cubicle where I've got predominantly Mel romance authors and stuff.
Nice. Nice.
Because I have now dived in way too deep, and I think I blame him, by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy, for me truly diving in deep.
But is too deep really a thing? I don't think so.
I mean, some of my other friends are like, try this romance, it'll split it up, and I'll try it. I'm like, no, okay, I'm going back to my now. Even though I've had a few pucking around and say you swear sneak in there of not necessarily Mel romance.
Mm-hmm. Pucking around, is that by
Emily Roth?
It's all over TikTok. I haven't read it yet.
It is.
I've heard good things. I haven't read it.
It is a MMFM romance.
Oh.
One girl, 3 guys, but then 2 of the guys fall in love with each other as well.
Oh, okay.
Love the
And
dynamic.
it is one of the most beautiful.
I need to.
It is a beautiful hockey romance.
Awesome.
I've heard good things.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just, but yeah.
Just a little swooning.
Listen, that is the best polyamory relationship I have ever read in a book.
Really?
Okay.
Oh, interesting. That makes me want to read it more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
same.
as someone who's in an open marriage where we tried the whole poly things and stuff like that, it's I appreciate seeing how well this dynamic works.
I wish we had more poly open stuff in romance.
That wasn't just a horror novella for Halloween, for erotica and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
We need more that discuss the full journey of the couple, which
I agree.
with Pucking Around, it's 700 pages.
Oh, wow.
It's literally discussing everything, and it dives into the characters deep,
nice.
deeper than I think most books will go.
Oh, good. That's cool. That makes me want to read more.
Yeah, same. Thanks for that.
Also, with anybody in the comments, does anybody have any questions while we have Riley and Christina? Just thought I'd ask those who are here as well. I know Lori just said, I've read 12 books of yours, Riley, this year. Favorites are the Verse podcast series, Collide, and Risk the Fall.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Collide was my very first Riley Hart book in 2013. I can't believe it was a long time ago. And that's fun. That is very found family, that's my jam. That's my vibe too. So the verse, you're definitely going to get a lot of found family. Thank you. I'm glad you liked them.
Hey, listen, don't dog scream for us. I know it's perfection, but still. That's when I was talking about a Halloween horror colleague. Yeah. Nikki says, what is your thought process during your first book writing journey? What were your thought processes during
okay. You mean the
book
very
you wrote?
first?
Yes.
Like way back in the day?
I know. We're old.
If you remember that far.
Yeah. I mean, because even before my Riley book came out, like I said, I've written, under other names and written a lot for, I think I was first published in like 2006-ish. So it's been a long time. I think for me, it was just like, I'd always loved writing. Like I won my first writing contest. I will always remember this. It was an essay contest in the 3rd grade, and the theme that we had to write about was called "Tomorrow's Leaders on the Move." And I don't know why I will always remember that.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And so yeah, I do. I remember that I had my face in the newspaper and everything. Like it was cool for like to be that, So I always loved writing. I wanted to write children's books, but I think back then things were different. And to me, being a writer felt like being a movie star, like something that was so far
unattainable.
So unattainable. It was pre-self-published. It was just something I never thought would happen. And so I life and married and kids and all of those things. Well, one kid at the time. And then we had moved from Oregon. I lived in a small town in Oregon and then to Southern California. So I went from a small town where I knew everyone to a Southern California where I knew no one and was completely overwhelmed. And I was a stay-at-home mom for the first time. My husband worked all the time at that. And so I was really, just kind of sad and lonely, to be honest. And that's when I picked up my first romance novel, and my world was kind of blown. It was MF at the time, way back then. And I fell in love with reading, which then made my whole like falling in love with writing thing happen. And it reignited that love, that passion, and that want. And so I gave it a try. Got lots of rejection because, like I said, it was self-publishing, and the whole thing was like trying to get an agent and all of these things.
Oh my God, yeah.
So it was definitely a long journey, but I've learned so much from it, and I just feel so lucky that I get to do what I love every day. And just thinking about those early days and figuring stuff out, like she said, my writing process, I remember like it was so different. I had my first beta reader and she's like, "You're head hopping." And I'm like, "What is that?" Like, I didn't even know, like, I have to stay in one point of view. Like, how did I not know that? So it's just, just so much you've learned and study your craft and all of those things. Yeah. And now I'm just lucky that I get to do it.
Yep. Same. Yep.
I don't know if that answers the question, but
yeah, I don't know.
Sorry.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar for me, but I do think that back in 2008, when I wrote my first, it was YA and it was complete trash. I do think that during that time, like J.K. Rowling, who don't want to really talk about anymore because
who shall not be named.
Yeah. Lord Voldemort. No.
No, actually, I relate her more
transphobic.
To she's more Umbridge than she is Voldemort.
Oh, good one,
that's good. That is good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But her and like Stephanie Meyer during that time with Twilight, I think the thing that occurred to me was like Riley said, I thought, I can never write and be an author because that's some sort of weird, unattainable. I didn't even know how you even became an author. But then in the news, you start hearing about, like, for example, those two authors, and Stephanie Meyer is like, I'm a housewife and I wrote on the, I don't remember exactly what she said, but also, and then J.K. Rowling, I was homeless at one point and blah, blah, blah. And you start thinking, oh, really? oh, maybe I can write. And then
Mhm.
that's actually what started some of that thought process for me. So I was like, I think I can
Twilight's
do
how I
this.
got to YA.
Oh, there you
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
Yep.
See, so everyone has
Have
a
a
gateway
photo
drug.
with me and Robert Pattinson to prove it.
Yes.
Love that.
I literally camped out on the streets in LA to go to the red carpet premiere of Twilight back in the day. Yes, I did.
See, that's back in the day where I remember going to bookstores at midnight for midnight releases of the next
Yep.
book.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
did that with Harry Potter. I did that with Twilight. I did that with Vampire Academy. Mainly
I
for
used
a
to
Oh
do
friend.
yeah,
that too.
Vampire
Yeah.
Like,
Academy.
I was reading Vampire Academy with a friend. We were buddy reading the series, but she's the one that really wanted to go to that midnight thing. And I was like, but I have to be up early in the morning. And she's like, I don't care. We're getting it. Okay, we'll go. But yeah, I was
It's
like,
like standing in line for concert tickets, but now you don't
Back
have
in the
to.
day, now you don't have to.
Yeah.
yes.
All those things we used to have to do.
Back when we had good bookstores, not saying that we
I
don't have good
know.
bookstores now, but back when we
No,
had
there were a lot of.
Hastings
There
and
were more.
Borders and Walden's
more.
and all these
Yep.
bookstores that we had more access to,
I know.
that we didn't
Yeah.
have to.
It was pre-Amazon,
Yes.
Yeah.
and Amazon obliterated us all,
Yes.
or them all. Yep.
But this has been amazing. You two are amazing. We love your
Thank
books. We
you.
love
Thank you for
reading.
this. It was
Thank
really
you.
nice to be
We
here.
loved reading of Sunlight and Stardust. And also, because we didn't touch on it, the minute you said the title in the book, I bawled. I love when the
Oh,
title
You know
of
what's
the book.
funny? We also weren't sure. Like, I know we have to hurry, but we were like, I don't know, is this a good title? Like,
I
remember
know.
that? We went, but now I
Yes.
absolutely love it. It's like one of my
Yes.
favorite titles, and it's so perfect. But yeah, it's fun fact.
When I love when a book, when the title is mentioned in it, and it like it
Uh-huh.
explains why
And
the
it
title
flips.
is what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
I'm like,
Aha.
oh my
Yeah.
god! Like I was reading Love and Monsters by Max Walker,
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
and when he mentioned like there's like a quote towards the end, it's like, yeah, everybody is like love with and monsters, and just went into it. I was like, that makes so much sense for the title of the
Okay.
book.
I
And then
love
this
that.
one made so much sense, but it also made sense for both stories.
Mhm.
But yes, this has been amazing. Thank you guys for joining
you.
us
Thanks for having us.
and
Yeah,
thanks
it's
for being
fun,
our
yeah.
first author interviews
Oh,
with
that's
Small
awesome.
Book
That's
Club.
cool.
This is
Uh,
definitely going to be memorable for me, as you guys are the first authors I've ever gotten to interview, and honestly, a
Aw.
little starstruck this entire time.
cool. That's awesome. I didn't realize for some reason
Thank
that we
you.
were the first. So that's cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
and that's all we've got for you
Yeah.
guys.
Have a good rest of your day, everyone.
If y'all like this video, hit that thumbs up. Remember, go follow Hope. Go follow Hope. And then go follow Riley and Christina. I have their Amazon pages linked down below already in the description. I figured it was the easiest way for most people to go find most your work. But that's all we've got. Remember, kids, always be fabulously yourself. And until next time, bye.
Bye.
Bye.